touch that peak, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. I ain't getting no sleep till I touch that peak. I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping.
To present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Get it right there.
I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children be able to sing with new meaning, my country tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims cry. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when they capture, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Arguably one of the greatest speeches of all time. Arguably. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? And welcome to ROMA Nation. I'm AK, your favorite guy. And tonight we enter our second week of Uncensored. We're going to take a look at the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and cover the good, the bad, and the ugly details. So sit back and relax as ROMA Nation starts now.
I'm hiding all me, so lonely. I'm hiding all me, so lonely.
I was just dancing to the beat.
You were? How you doing, Biddy?
I'm doing good, man. That speech, bro. I'm all choked up inside, like the power and the beauty and just seeing everybody watching him with so much hope. And I mean, I know like everybody probably feels that way and it's like kind of a cliche thing to mention, but it's just like, whoa.
No,
Yeah.
it is. It is. And it gets you choked up because like for 6 minutes and 23 seconds, you actually get transformed back into time. I mean, this wasn't that long ago.
Right.
This
Right.
was 60 some odd years ago.
Yeah. Like 62 years, I think.
Exactly. Like I was born on the shorter half of that timeline.
We'll just say it like that, okay? Many moons ago, but
Many moons ago, yeah. Now we're
Yeah.
telling each other's ages here.
Yeah. No, I'm not in this conversation. You talk about yourself.
Oh, geez, here we go. No, but seriously, like, I mean, that that was sort of like the pinnacle, right? We're going to go over a bunch of information about, his life, where he grew up, how everything transpired. Obviously, unfortunately, the assassination attempt, some of the conspiracies that were part of that. But I think that was one of those moments, right? That was one of those moments in which everybody was watching and everybody had their eyes peeled to the TV or the radio or whatnot. And that's the reason why I wanted to play this, because believe it or not, there's not a lot of people that have seen that speech. They've heard of the speech.
Right, like
they've read the speech, but they've
it.
never actually watched it in person. And I think that that's important, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, right? Like this, you can't think of the terms of today, all right? You have to think of the terms of yesteryear and the issues that African Americans were going through at that time.
Absolutely.
So I'm telling you what, right now, this is going to be a wonderful episode.
Yeah.
Right. But anyways, before we get started, we got a Discord. All right.
Yes, you do.
We do have a Discord where all the magic happens for ROMA Nation. If you want to be a podcast host, producer, researcher, or writer for us, this is the only place where you can be a part of the fastest growing podcast community on X and Rumble. The link is in the description below. Also, please check out our website, where ROMA Nation is part of the Rise of Middle America Podcast Network, where you can see our most recent content, news, rants, and deep dives, as well as up-and-coming events that you don't want to miss. And guess what? We got ourselves some merch now. You guys need to go and check it out.
Yeah.
Check it out. Look at these beauties.
Yeah, those logos are so fire, man.
I know. Look at my producer. Go into the Sunset Rants hat real quick, because I'm going to tell you exactly which one I want to get. I want to get the black and gray one.
I know you. Yeah, I really like that forest green.
Bro,
This black and gray is sick too, though.
This one right here. This is
That's
my
you.
jam.
Yeah, that's you all
jam.
over. Yep. It matches your jacket that you're wearing right now. Actually,
right?
Yeah, those are your colors right there.
Yes. As of right now, that one is on the way to my house. So I can't wait for that.
I need to get on. I'm getting that hat. I'm putting in my order.
Yeah. But anyway, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on X at @therealRoma_AK. That is Elizabethy213A. It rhymes. I know, that was perfect. Please help make us the #1 podcast network on X and Rumble. I want to see you guys in the chats tonight, because things are about to get spicy. Because we're going to get into this. Now, last week, we actually went over JFK Uncensored and went over all the conspiracy theories and all the things about that. This week is part 2, where we talk about MLK and everything that happened throughout his life, the assassination, a lot of the issues that he had, the good and the bad. We talk about everything. Next week's going to be RFK, but we're going to leave that for next week, because this week, let's make it happen. So, today, we strip away that myth and dive into the real Martin Luther King Jr. and his rise, his flaws, and all of his controversy surrounding his assassination, from the FBI surveillance, can't forget that, to conspiracy theories that still persist. This is MLK Uncensored. my
Good
god, I
bump.
love those intros. Those
Good
bumps
bump.
were awesome.
I know it's kind of like that thing like when you make a joke and you're not supposed to laugh at your own jokes. Like this is our thing, but like, dude, that was fire.
It was. All right, so we're gonna have a couple of sections tonight. So at first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over the early years. Because a lot of people don't know about his early years, about who he was, and how smart he was. Right, because he was a Baptist minister and a civil rights leader, and in civil rights, the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s, best known for his nonviolent resistance and his role in ending segregation and racial discrimination in the U.S. His leadership, by the way, led to a landmark legislation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But before we get into that, what was it like growing up with him? All right. So he was born on January 15th, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. Martin Luther, he grew up in a middle-class black family. So, in 1920s, 1929 is right after the market crash. And he was still middle class, right? His father, Martin Luther King Sr., he was a pastor, and his mother, Alberta Williams King, she was a school teacher, right? And despite being relatively well off compared to many other African American families at the time, he still faced segregation and racism firsthand, right? That's just what it was.
Yeah.
Then. He was deeply influenced by his faith and his education. And what a lot of people don't know is that he skipped 2 grades.
Oh wow!
And enrolled in Morehouse College at 15 years old.
Oh wow! I had no idea. So he was a prodigy. Basically, he was like, yeah, that's crazy.
Exactly.
You could tell just how eloquent he was, and this is gonna make me sound not unintelligent, but like all the big words he was using and stuff like that is just like damn, just like speak that good talk right there. It was just so good, and you can have that kind of like that balance of using honey to get the message across and not being extremely forceful, but you can also be assertive the way he was talking about Alabama and actualities of what was going on at the time. So yeah,
exactly. Wow. Right, because you got to remember, like, nobody really knew who he was until he came into prominence, right? Because in 1954 he became a pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, and he co-founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or the SCLC, in 1957, and was using the platform as a non-violent protest and civil rights activism. Now
24, 25, so he's still super young. You just got ahead quick.
Yeah, exactly. And back then, when it came to activism, depending on which area you were in, you either got really good feedback or you got some really violent feedback.
Right.
Because there were no cameras back then. There were no social media. There was no anything like that. So what ended up happening is, if you go in the wrong place at the wrong time. Anyways, we'll talk about that here.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about his character, right? So how he became famous, how he was perceived by his peers, by his foes, and everything. So he gained national attention at the Montgomery bus boycott and cemented his legacy through powerful speeches, nonviolent protests, and his ability to unite diverse groups in the fight of equality. Now, if you notice in all of his marches, and you saw there in the video, the I Had a Dream speech, there was all different types of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, the first thing I thought was, man, everybody back then was really skinny. Where was RFK Jr.?
He wasn't needed. He was born and grew up at the proper time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Who is this? Oh, is that Honey Badger? How you doing? Mwah. She said, we finally have hope of exposing what the CIA did to MLK. Oh, boy. You trying to get me in trouble, honey? My goodness. But yeah, so it was a fight for equality. You notice that he had all different types of people that were around him. It's very difficult when you bring those types of people together. I mean, he brought together Protestants, he brought together Jewish people, he brought together all these different types of people, and I can see in a way in why they would think he was a threat. You know, and then we talked about JFK last weekend, and a lot of feathers that he ruffled over the years, especially when he was president, and it all kind of came in one big circle. And you can only imagine how many conspiracy theories we can come up with. There's probably more conspiracy theories that we could talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it in any era, whatever is the popular thing, a lot of people just go along to get along because they don't want to like go against the grain. They don't want to have any drama. They don't want to have, anything worse. And then you throw on top of the climate that was going on at the time with the racism being at like such a high at the time, and all the violence that was going on, that just adds to it. So,
Right.
a lot of people, anybody who was jumping on this at that time, they were the freedom fighters. They were and they were doing it, under his, kind of like following his tutelage of just saying, yeah, we're going to call things out as they are, but we're also going to speak of it as something that's going to be unity. So it was like a beautiful, but there was still a lot of people that, like you said, that probably felt threatened by it because of that narrative that just allowed people to just go about their business,
Yep.
And not ruffle any feathers.
I mean, you've seen some of the videos, right? Some of the old school videos, where you'd have like the liberal white suburban women that were kind of like, we understand about having them having their rights and everything, but moving them into our neighborhood, it's just a little. Maybe we're not ready for that just yet, but
okay. What rights do you speak of, ma'am?
Stop it, Benny. No, but yeah,
no, it's true.
But obviously, because of his work and efforts that he did throughout the 50s, he ended up winning the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Which made him like an enduring figure in history. So once you win that, it's like, all bets are off.
Right.
It kind of reminds me, I know this is going to be a really weird comparison, but it kind of reminds me of who were the skaters back in the early 90s that got in together? Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tanya Harding kind of had a similar life where she was like a top tier skater, but she was not from the best neighborhood. She was not from she was from what we call today from the streets.
Yeah. I mean that thing where she's like skating and she's crying. That's because her skate broke, and she she like fell into a total meltdown because of like not having that type of money to have the best stuff.
Not even that, like, well, what I'm getting at here is that, like, she was the best skater in the world at the time, but it was the establishment that was like, you're great.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But
we don't want you as the face of skating.
We don't want you as the face. We want her as the face. And now you kind of see, we need to do an episode on that. Just for just on that whole.
No, it's kind of funny too, because it's got me thinking about the M&M boys in baseball with Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. It was the same thing. Roger Maris was a beast, but because he wasn't like well liked by the crowd, they really pushed heavy for Mantle to be the one to beat the record. And that's just kind of like, it's so crazy to think about. Like, it happens all over. It happens in music. It happens in everything. They push people that are less talented than others behind the scenes up front. Even in music, they'll have them like lip syncing and whatnot to other people's greatness and just have their like pretty face up front. It's just so wild how that goes down.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about some of his. When we talk about good character, what were I'm going to name like the top three moments during the civil rights era that brought him to prominence. So the first one that I'm going to do here is let's go with the we talked about the I had a dream speech, all right? We already heard that. All right, that was number one. All right. Number two is the Birmingham campaign in 1963. All right, where he organized protests against segregation, resulting in mass arrests, police violence. You guys have seen that on video. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys. So let's go ahead and take a look.
The young African American student protesters would gather here on the steps of the 16th Street Baptist Church and hear inspirational speeches from civil rights leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They would then file from the church and walk across the street to a park where they were determined to demonstrate peacefully for equal rights.
I was arrested after we got about a block away from the church in this area.
Janice Kelsey was 16 years old when she and her schoolmates were jailed.
My mind was made up. I was going to participate. I was going to go to jail. I wanted to get my freedom.
Then on the second day of the student demonstrations, things turned violent. Police turned high-pressure fire hoses on the young people and set attack dogs on them. Birmingham civil rights leader Reverend Calvin Woods was there.
There had been some dog biting, some beating, some killing. Many people were beaten and spit on and put in jail, lost jobs. But those were minor things compared to what we felt we had to do.
The brutal crackdown was widely televised, and images of the event were seen around the world. Robert Corley says this incident galvanized new support for the civil rights movement.
It was really that children's crusade that really turned the tide, because it did serve the goal of filling up the jails and forcing the white community to come to the table with King and negotiate some sort of settlement.
Eventually, King and Birmingham city leaders reached an agreement. Within months, the local segregation laws were abolished. Reverend Woods says King's determination to keep the movement going made all the difference.
Yeah, that's
Sorry, I had my mic muted. You can't look at this in the context of today. That's what people need to understand. Look at this, the context of no social media, not a lot of media coverage, you know. And remember, I did an episode back in, oh my God, it was months ago, where I compared the civil rights movement to the Black Lives Matter and pinned them against each other. Not necessarily together, but I pinned them against each other and showed different situations and different things and how the media portrayed them back then versus now.
Context matters, yeah.
No, context definitely matters. And hold on, I got myself a rant here from the chat. Let's see, this is from Back in Blanco. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. He said, keep up the good work. You two have been wanting to see the black man speak truth into light.
Nice.
Love you, man. Oh boy, what trouble are we getting into tonight?
No, but you know, it's just crazy because, and it's good that you said that, because first of all, you said earlier, this has been what, 62 years, 6 decades, you know, whatever. A lot has happened from then till now. A lot of legislation has been passed. A lot of things happen in the way of opportunities and things like that. A lot of other stuff, you know, if you want to see the war on drugs, a lot of other stuff was injected kind of in the midst of that. There's a lot.
I did a whole 3-part series on the war on drugs.
Yeah,
yes,
and
check that on a Rumble.
Yeah, no, those are great. I love those. But you know, it's funny because I think people are, again, the go along to get along, kind of like not pushing against the grain. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, here's a side, there's a side. I just got to pick one of the two. Nice and simple. The world, people, everything that goes down, it makes everything very complex. And I don't think a lot of people take the time to realize the different intricacies of things, and they want to just, use the same talking points on both sides. This happens a lot. I see it all the time, and I'm like you, AK. I'm the type of person that I just kind of sit back and observe, and I think, before I really speak, unless I'm pissed, and then I ramble. But then the Italian New Yorker comes out, and I'm like,
I don't have to
like,
say.
You know me? No, but yeah. So I think that's why this is beautiful that you're doing this, because it's really a good idea for everybody to get the full picture. So we can have a real deal Holyfield conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about, so we talked about the March in Washington in 1963. We talked about the Birmingham campaign, where you saw all of the protests and the mass arrests and the violence with the dogs and the fire hoses and things like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is that was shown, but a lot of people were kind of like, okay, well, are they really being, peaceful protesters? Like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until 1965. All right. And this was the march. All right. This was the Selma to Montgomery March, which you guys know as the incident that happened on that bridge that was shown all across America, in which everybody was like, oh my goodness, what are they doing to these people down there?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to bring up this video. We're going to watch the whole thing. It's only about 2.5 minutes long. And then I'm going to give you the floor, Biddy, on what you feel was going on.
Gosh. All right.
When a crowd marches from Georgetown, Texas to the state capitol on Wednesday, July 28th, organizers say they're drawing inspiration from Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1965 March for Voting Rights. I'm Brandy Smith with a quick history lesson. This is a story in 3 parts, and it begins on March 7th, 1965. Marchers campaigning for voter rights attempted to make a 54-mile trek across Alabama from Selma to Montgomery. They made it halfway across the Edmund Pettus Bridge before state troopers moved in with batons and tear gas. Images from what became known as Bloody Sunday sparked outrage all over the country. 2 days later, protesters gave the march another try. Again, state troopers turned them around on the bridge, but without the violence witnessed on Bloody Sunday. Then on March 21st, a group of more than 3,000, led by MLK Jr., started their march out of Selma, this time with a court order and federal troops protecting them along the way.
The day we can march by this very same spot without being stopped and without being harassed up to this point represents a level of progress that's very significant.
The crowd walked more than 10 miles a day along what is now known as the Selma to Montgomery National Historic Trail to make it to Alabama's capital on March 25th, where John Lewis delivered this message.
When in a system denies the people the right to vote, it is not asking just for a battle, but it is demanding a war. And we are involved in a nonviolent war. We are involved in a nonviolent revolution.
Later that summer, Congress passed the Voting Rights Act. President Lyndon Johnson signed it into law on August 6, 1965.
10 miles a day. That's insane. I can't even walk up and down the stairs to get my mail without feeling like I'm going to die.
By the way, if there's any Hollywood producers that's going to do a movie called King, I would love to try out for that. 'Cause I had a dream that one day I'll be a famous actor.
Yeah,
But I'm not that good.
You have the golden tones, man. And coincidentally, something else. No, but that would be. Did they make any movies about it? I'm sure they would remake it anyway if they did, but they haven't made one that stuck out. That they if anything needed to be redone or done in first, it'd be that, and it needed to be
I mean,
done.
they made JFK, they made
Mhm.
Malcolm X like 4 times. Like, you know,
I hope whoever does it the right way too, not just pushing propaganda one way or the other, just doing it real and make a really great film.
right. So speaking of propaganda, that's a good segue into our next segment. Bad character.
Okay.
All right, I know. We listen.
Strap in. Yeah.
I told you guys I'm going to talk about everything here because there are certain things that that have been brought up about Martin Luther King that were not good.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. And there are different accusations, there's scandals, there's a lot of different things that people actually do not know about. And I'm not saying whether it's true, whether it's not, but this is not from my mouth. This is actually from the FBI. All right, because if you guys understand, they were following him. They were following him. They were following Malcolm X. They were following who was the kid that was running the Black Panthers that was gunned down in his home. Oh my goodness gracious! I talked about it on the episode with the civil rights versus
Huey
Black Lives
Newton?
Matter.
Or was that
No,
that was 1989?
that
Okay.
was not it. Great. Now I gotta look this up. Give me a second.
Fred Hampton.
Fred Hampton. Yes, that's who it was. It was Fred Hampton.
Unfortunately, there were a lot of these that I had to scroll down a bit.
Yeah. Tell me about it. So with Fred Hampton, if you guys knew about him, you know, he became very influential in the Black Panthers movement. He was very young. He was like 22 years old, but like up here just knew exactly what to say at every point in time. And the FBI did their first sting operation against him, where there it is. So let's see what I have to say. Oh my goodness, that is so small. I have to blow this up. There it is. All right, yep. Frederick Allen Hampton Sr. He was born, what was it, August 30th, 1948. He was an American activist and revolutionary socialist. Became a prominence in his late teens and early 20s in Chicago as deputy chairman of the National Black Panther Party and chair of the Illinois chapter. He founded anti-racist and anti-classist Rainbow Coalition, a prominent multicultural political organization that was initially included in the Black Panthers' young. Sorry, I
Patriots,
can't.
yeah.
I can't read that. No, that's not my producer's fault. That's my fault. My computer screen is so small. But yeah, so but obviously there's bad character, all right? So things that he was accused of. So some black activists, including Malcolm X and members of the Black Power movement, criticized MLK for being too passive and catering to the white liberals. Right? He was accused of being too willing to compromise, and particularly after negotiating with politicians on civil rights legislation. Which I don't know why they would do that. That doesn't make any sense. Some viewed his push for integration as undermining Black economic and social self-sufficiency. And some people actually still think that today, where they think that integrating everybody kind of there's not as many Black people. I mean, what are we, 13% of the country?
Yeah, well, we can thank Margaret Sanger for that. Oops, did I say that?
Whoa!
Sorry. Yeah.
So,
no, but yeah. I hear the same arguments these days when it comes to Muslims coming here and stuff like that. But these are different arguments because people are talking about culture and religion and different things that you do in those religions and cultures and stuff like that, and how it integrates whatever. But at this time, everybody was American. Everybody had like the same wants and needs, and just mostly the same religion. I mean, all different religions, but they were kind of all in line in the same way of like, you know, the creator and all this other kind of stuff. So I don't even understand what that argument is. Like, I'm not saying I agree with the other either, but I'm just saying, like, with this, it doesn't make sense at all why you would think that there should be a difference. Well,
Yeah, exactly. And if you really think about it, last week when we were talking about JFK, I feel like the peace and war movement had a war with his assassination. All right. And then our government split into two factions. They split into the peace faction and they split into the war faction. Fast forward to MLK and Malcolm X, there was the peace faction and then there was the war faction.
there was a leader for each narrative.
Exactly. I have another theory for RFK next week, but we're going to save it to then.
Oh.
But this is nobody else has ever said this. I'm the first person. I'm the first person to ever say that.
Well, this is the thing. You didn't even tell me. So I'm just like.
But if you notice that,
Yeah.
those are where the factions started. It was between 1960 and 1970. That's where you start to see a lot of where the splits happened in our establishment, in our governance, in our activism, and things like that. And it plays a prominent role in what happened in 2016. A very prominent role, and going all the way into 2020. But anyways, so let's go to some of the scandals that the FBI had to say. So let's start off with infidelity, right? So FBI surveillance and COINTELPRO allegedly recorded MLK engaging in extramarital affairs. And the FBI even sent an anonymous letter urging him to commit suicide.
Oh my God.
Yes. So you can see here in the blue, it says the activity is not new to King and his associates. As early as January 1964, King engaged in another 2-day drunken sex orgy in Washington, D.C. Many of those present or engaged in sexual acts, natural as well as unnatural, for the entertainment of onlookers. When one of the females shield away from the engaging in the unnatural act, King and other of the males presented discussed how she was to be taught and initiated into this respect. Throughout the ensuing years until this date, King had continued to carry on his sexual aberration secretly while holding himself out of the public view as a moral leader, religious conviction. I mean,
okay, so the first thing, right? Infidelity. That's actually, it is a crime. It's on the books as a crime if somebody wanted to charge you with it. Adultery.
Yeah,
it is a crime. It's still on, nobody's taking it out. I learned that a long time ago when I was in college, and I was just like, wow, really? But yeah, so that was one. So they were just kind of like following him just to see. I mean, how would they even know that this was going down? I'm guessing that they were following him to see like what was going on, because like you said, there were no phones, there weren't like a lot of coverage on things. So it's kind of odd. But basically, when you get into like the orgy stuff and talking about people who shied away from being a participant and then being coached or whatever into performing the acts or being a part of it, kind of sounds like stuff that we've heard that are going on now with a particular person.
Peace side, war side. You know, and again, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand that there are some, but these are some very specific accusations.
Right.
Right. It even says right above that, it said one room had a large table in it that was filled with whiskey, The 2 Negro prostitutes were paid $50 to put on a sex show for the entertainment of guests. A variety of sex acts deviating from the normal were observed. I'm not going to confirm or deny that I've ever witnessed something like that before, but
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
but it's one of those things that, like, you take with a grain of salt, but at the same time, back then there was a lot of this stuff going around, especially in the 60s.
Right? Yeah, everybody was in the age of Aquarius dancing around and stuff like that in the 60s.
Never. Let the sun shine.
Right. Yeah, like free, like that was just like right around or right before, like that whole free love, movement and all that other kind of stuff. People just jumping into VW bugs and whatever. Just
Hey, I've seen Forrest Gump enough times.
yeah, exactly.
Right? All right, so let's move on to the communist ties accusation. And the FBI and opponents accused him of being linked to communists due to his advisors through no direct evidence to support the claim. I mean, this specifically, I could see that more with Malcolm X, because he actually visited, what's his name in Cuba?
Oh, Fidel Castro.
On multiple occasions. So, like, maybe they just kind of thought that, birds flock together kind of a thing.
Yeah, and it could be that they were trying to imply that one used, like you said, one used the aggressive way of Marxism and one used the peaceful way of Marxism, which could also be true. Like you could be an extremely.
It says here, the reason King enjoyed the close. Exactly. So this document states that the reason King enjoyed this close relationship with communists is best explained by the fact that Leveson, in February of 1962, passed a word to Gus Hall, General Secretary of CPUSA, quote, King is wholehearted Marxist who had studied Marxism and believes in it and agrees with it, but just because of his being a minister of religion does not dare to expose it publicly. Further, in March of 1962, Levinson told CPUSA functionary that King was concerned about a communist label being pinned on us, but that at the same time he wanted to do everything possible to evidence friendship towards the Soviet Union. In addition, King had been described with the CPUSA as true, genuine Marxist-Leninist from the top of the head to the tips of his toes, feeling within the CPUSA at the time, and still is, that King definitely follows a Marxist-Leninist line. I actually do not believe this. I don't believe this at all. There's just.
Yeah,
there would have been something somewhere outside of that. Now, obviously, when it comes to adultery and things like that you can hear through the grapevine, right? But this was oddly specific to the Soviet party. Like,
right.
when did he ever talk to a Russian? Ever?
No Ruski friends. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
They're in Soviet Russia.
I wish that I'm I'm just like an everyday person. I'm not a scholar. I'm not, extremely intelligent or anything like that. Like, I just try to listen and think of like what I'm thinking at the moment and whatever. And it's hard because right now that we're hearing everything that's coming out about our own government, everything that's been, all the propaganda, everything that's been incited to create, all this division and all this other kind of stuff. And, people that are really trying to fight, like, everything that they did to Trump. We were hoping and praying that he would get elected because of everything that he was going to do to change the country. And they attacked him every which way from Sunday, brought up all these allegations, smeared him, all this other kind of stuff. So having that in your head, not growing up in this time with MLK and like, whatever, it's like when I see documents like this and I see them like kind of like the feds and CIA working behind the scenes to gather information against this man, it's like, okay, I get that, you know, a lot of these things are crimes and would be, and, you know, it's something that you would want to check out. But if if all of this is true, or if at least just the infidelity stuff and the sexual stuff are true, does that make what he said in that speech incorrect? Does that make what
Or
his
any less
movement
valuable.
was, or any less valuable?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, whether or not you follow religion or you believe in God or anything like that, like I believe in God, and I believe that God calls everybody to do something, to be part of it, you know, to be part of like the fabric that molds everybody and teaches everybody and works together. And we're all sinners. Nobody's perfect, you know, so he can call anybody, whether or not they've sinned even the worst sins, to make a difference at the moment that they're supposed to. So
Absolutely.
I just wonder about all of this, whether or not it's true. It's like, why bring it up now? Is it because we're going to find out who, you know what I mean, who took him out, kind of thing? Like, I don't know.
No, I agree. And it's when you look at, again, JFK, it's so crazy how similar
Yeah.
like a lot of the stories are
Mhm.
about, you know, JFK's past versus MLK's past versus, you know, the infidelity versus all this other stuff. They've been talking about JFK and Marilyn Monroe,
Mhm.
which is way more believable considering that he was the first like celebrity president. Or no, I wouldn't say celebrity. I take that back. He was like the first
The
like
beloved.
all-star
Yeah.
kind of president, which is
Mhm.
why much of America, once he was assassinated, was kind of like, who would do this? They like, what? Again, there's no social media, there's no, you know, media back then. There's all these ties, paperwork, all this other stuff was a lot. They moved a lot slower back then.
True.
You
Yeah.
know, so it's much more difficult to uh to get that information.
Yeah.
Okay, Fluffy. All right, I'll give you at least one. There you go. You know, Marilyn Monroe is the only woman that could make a flower sexy.
Actually, you know what? I just got a visual image of that when I read it. You're probably right. She could have probably rocked the heck out of that outfit.
Hey, and I bet you called this one too, right?
I love another beer discovered the clarity forgive all who wronged me.
Yeah, that's Biddy's executive producer of Sunset Reds, just having fun right now.
Liquid peace.
Exactly. But yeah, I want to thank all the people that are here tonight. Yeah, I knew this one was going to be very popular, and I wanted to make sure that I had everything right. So I pushed it back 30 minutes, not just because of that, but also the Scrap Master and the Rant Master. He actually had some
Technical
issues, some
difficulties,
technical
yeah.
difficulties, and he was not able to be here tonight. And I know he wanted to so bad, but he will
Yeah.
definitely be back next week for the show. We actually had a bunch of substitutes this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
It's just
did.
it's like that time of year too. Like it feels
Yeah.
like like everybody's either sick or everybody's
Mhm.
computer's crashing out because we're all trying to look up the Epstein files probably.
Oh my goodness! Don't get
Everybody's
me
stuff is
started
crashing.
on that right
Yeah,
now because I'm trying to get away from that. But no, you know what? Let's move on to the third one, which this one, I mean, you guys take it with a grain of salt, say what you have to say. But this is the misuse of funds, right? And this is unverified rumors that about financial mismanagement in the civil rights organizations that he led. Now, if you want to talk about today and what's happening today outside of that, what's going on with the government with Doge?
Mhm.
Okay, so right here at the top, it says with funds that he had received from the Ford Foundation, King held the first of two workshops in Miami in February of 1968 to train Negro ministers in urban leadership. One Negro minister in attendance later expressed his disgust at the behind-the-scenes drinking, fornicating, homosexuality that went on at the conference. Several Negro and white prostitutes were brought in from the Miami area. An all-night sex orgy was held, and these prostitutes and some of the delegates in attendance. I mean, it's Miami.
Yeah. It hasn't changed.
Benvenido a Miami. No.
Yeah.
I can see that happening. I mean, again, it might not even be MLK himself, but the people that are there that are misusing the funds, again, much easier to do that back then than it is now.
Very true. It could be. Yeah.
Yeah, and say this is for entertainment, and write that off on your taxes.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a powerful person, you have the ears of a lot of powerful people and a lot of people listening to you, and you can see the fame and all the money and everything coming in. You're gonna get some, you're gonna have, of course, loyal people that are just there because they believe in the cause and they want to help you and they believe in you and they have all this. But then you're gonna have other people that just kind of latch onto you because they're hoping that they can benefit themselves. That's definitely true in anything. So not saying that this is definitely absolutely not true, and it's definitely absolutely not true that that MLK had anything to do with it, but it's also very, very possible that he had, like you said, some people around him that were skimming off the top and he had no idea that it was happening.
No, of course he did. And that's in any party, whether it's, Democrat, Republican, Tea Party, Libertarian, you're always going to have snakes there. You're always going to have snakes that are going to come in and they're going to smile at you in the front while they stab you in the back. It's just that this is just human nature. And unfortunately, there are going to be a bunch of moles, a bunch of spies, a bunch of people in there giving information away from the inside. It always happens. And they will always find a way because they will always have more resources than you do.
Right. And if they're that slimy of a person, this is something they think about 24/7, about how they're going to sneak their way into certain situations and benefit themselves. So it's like a 24-hour job that they love doing. So they get really good at it.
Yeah, exactly. So, if I can get my producer, you don't have to bring up the photos right now, but obviously this is the night that everybody heard the terrible news. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Could you lower those signs, please? I have some very sad news for all of you, and that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis. Martin Luther King dedicated his life to love and to justice between fellow human beings. He died in the cause of that effort. In this difficult day, in this difficult time for the United States, it's perhaps well to ask what kind of a nation we are and what direction we want to move in. For those of you who are black, considering the evidence evidently is that there were white people who were responsible, you can be filled with bitterness and with hatred and a desire for revenge. We can move in that direction as a country, in greater polarization, black people amongst blacks and white amongst whites, filled with hatred toward one another. Or we can make an effort, as Martin Luther King did, to understand and to comprehend and replace that violence, that stain of bloodshed that is spread across our land, with an effort to understand compassion and love. For those of you who are black and are tempted to be filled with hatred and mistrust of the injustice of such an act against all white people, I would only say that I can also feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling. I had a member of my family killed, but he was killed by a white man. But we have to make an effort in the United States. We have to make an effort to understand, to get beyond or go beyond these rather difficult times. My favorite poem, my favorite poet was Aeschylus. And he once wrote, "Even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, until in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another, feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black. We can do well in this country. We will have difficult times. We've had difficult times in the past, but we will have difficult times in the future. It is not the end of violence. It is not the end of lawlessness, and it's not the end of disorder. But the vast majority of white people and the vast majority of black people in this country want to live together, want to improve the quality of our life, and want justice for all human beings that abide in our land. And what dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Let us dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and for our people. Thank you very much.
I think that speech thrusted him into the DNC. I think this speech here is what allowed him to go into California, which again, we'll speak about him next week. Which thrusted him into the limelight, because you got to remember, he had to make this speech 4 months before he was assassinated and 5 years after his brother was assassinated. So if there was anybody that needed to make that speech at that moment in time, it was him.
I know I'm like super quiet, but you just think of the factions that were behind the scenes, and this is, getting conspiratorial, whatever, allegedly, that possibly hated the fact of what these three men were trying to do for this country, that they were trying to unify everybody. You can be assertive, you can point things out that are happening that are egregious, but you can also hope and push for unity. And that is something that all three of them were trying to do. We won't get into RFK because you're going to talk about that next week, but it's just like it's one of those things that hit you in the gut when you think of the correlation between everything that was going on and all the people. And it's just like, why is division so needed? Why is it such a bad thing that we all just, for lack of a better thing to say, we all just get along and just go about our own business and live alongside each other, work together, and just try to provide for our families. Why is that so difficult? Why is that such a hated thing
Right.
by the people that want? I mean, is money really that freaking important?
It's not, and when I think about it nowadays versus then, I don't understand it. I don't think money was really necessarily the issue, because you got to remember, this was the baby boom era. All right,
Yeah.
so this was the era in which, like, families were producing at an alarming rate. Right?
Yeah.
You got families of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like,
Was that the
it,
Marvin Gaye era, or was that too early?
no, I think Marvin Gaye was a 70s.
That was later.
But
Okay. I was just curious.
Marvin Gaye, of course. No.
I mean, come on. You think about like that kind of stuff. You think about, hey baby. You think about Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye.
Babe.
Come on. Like, I know I'm not alone
8
with
times
this. Pat.
over.
Somebody.
But like, there was plenty to go around. I mean, you had the industrial. Well, I wouldn't say the industrial era was much earlier than that, but this was sort of like the prime of that, with vehicles and with construction and building different buildings and all this other stuff. Hey, well, look at this. Hold on a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got ourselves another rant from Rumble. Jay and the Hizzy, bro, you were amazing, man. Thank you very much. He says, the back in the Blanco man account and just let me fucking send you money.
Oh.
Listen, you send us money, we will read it out loud every single time. We do not care. Absolutely. Thank you so much. What did he say when Biddy said that anybody can be saved and serve a purpose? William, can I? Oh gosh. You got yourself a little stalker here. No, I'm just kidding.
That's cute. But thank you. I appreciate it. That's funny.
But we were coming to an era where a lot of money was coming in, a lot of different people were becoming millionaires, billionaires. Yeah. Like, so everybody had an opportunity at that time. So I just have a really hard time of thinking that was the motivating factor, knowing that there were so many different industries that were exploding at the time. Go ahead.
No, that's true. No, and you know what? I should have said this, but maybe you knew what I was saying. But just in case, like, what I meant was, like, when you think about what kind of grows from division, like, you can promote, you can make money off of movements that argue the problem but don't necessarily fix it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when is like, because like, what is it? Why would you want? What is the motive for you to want this much division and hatred to be constant? And that leads to so much violence and turmoil. Like, what is it? There's got to be some kind of like selfish desire in the people that are like, the puppet masters. So I usually think it's money. I could be wrong, because I like said, like, there's other things going on. But
I mean, there's different aspects of this. I mean, we look at the war machine back then, which is now known as the military industrial complex. When they saw how much money that they made during World War II, you can see where that line kind of goes, right? So you've got what would you call it? So you've got
an incentive to keep it going.
Exactly. It's an incentive to keep it going. And again, you got the peace side and the war side. I'm going to keep bringing this up.
No, you're right.
I think I figured something out.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Like, everybody's got to have those two characters for every story. And if there are people that are moving things around behind the scenes, this is not something that's necessary. It could actually happen organically when you think of like a pendulum swing type situation of like people on one side people that are maybe in the middle and they're kind of getting pushed to one side or the other because of everything that's going on around them. So there could be like those two things, but it could also happen from, intentionally. So that way you can have these movements and you can have everything else that spawns from it that creates industries and creates whatever the heck they want to do to us, the peasants that get moved around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's one common theme amongst this, right? And that is not just the military industrial complex, but the war in Vietnam,
Mhm.
which they adamantly opposed. All right.
Mhm.
Martin Luther King opposed it, JFK opposed it, Forrest Gump opposed it. Like, like it was just everybody opposed it. And it was the first time that they got all this backlash,
Mhm.
that the American government got backlash from, a decision that they made, which caused all of these protests and military members or whatnot. But I feel like that they were so embarrassed about it that they realized that they couldn't use our young American soldiers from Middle America, hey, as chicken fodder. So now,
Right.
when you fast forward to today, what do? They go and pay other people to do that because they know that they can't make us do that ourselves.
Yo, I just had like a thought in my head about what you were just saying. Okay, so you think about Epstein and Diddy and what we think about them and
Mhm.
how they were possibly informants and possibly put out there to have these rings and stuff like that, sex rings and things like that to compromise powerful people so you have
Exactly.
control over them. I'm thinking to myself, this was probably the moment where it was like, okay, we can't have these people just being popular and being beloved by nations and the world, just
Mhm.
being able to go out there and do it. We need to have some kind of control over them so that way when they start acting out of character from what we want, being the people in control, we have some kind of. That's crazy.
Exactly. Peace side, war side. Somebody, please, in the comment section, like debunk me. Please debunk me. I really want to know. I think this is the time in which now we're starting to understand the power of war, the power of making weapons and pushing people in. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Unless you're the chocolate makers.
Unless you're the chocolate makers, then you're Willy Wonka. But anyways,
Mhm. Wow, I've never felt more played in my life.
right.
Yeah.
No, but this is all understandable.
Mhm.
In his life and why people think that there are different types of conspiracies against him, right? So the official reports in 1968, obviously he was assassinated April 4th, 1968 in the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. James Earl Ray was arrested and convicted of the crime, pled guilty to avoid the death penalty, and the official report concluded that Ray acted alone, though doubts arose almost immediately, especially after Kennedy. Right?
Yeah, of course. Mhm.
So this is from. It's not your favorite news site. I was going to say it. I was going to get your hopes up and then crush your
Why
heart.
would you do that to me?
But it's close enough. It's Tucker Carlson. So
Oh, we like him.
let's take a listen.
I'm a little less confident on the Martin Luther King assassination files. And I think of all of these crimes, there are three. There's the murder of Bobby Kennedy, the murder of JFK, the murder of MLK. I think that story is, the official story is the least plausible. It's actually ridiculous that he was murdered by a prison inmate acting alone without a job, but somehow that prison inmate winds up going to Canada, then the UK, then is heading to South Africa with foreign passports. And he did that all by himself? Like, that's just, I mean, come on. And so clearly there was a conspiracy to murder Martin Luther.
That's why I was looking at those reports from the FBI.
Yeah.
One of the adultery, fine. You know what? You could if you want one, I'll give it to you. You can have that one. But when it comes to
the Russian propaganda,
propaganda, he didn't talk to any Russians. Black people didn't talk to Russians back then.
I mean, can we just be simple and real about it? Like, yeah, like we don't have to get too complicated. Like, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that was this. Yeah, that's unfortunately that was the last photo taking him outside of his funeral, which is rough. But obviously, like, they didn't talk to Russians, you know, and then of course when it comes to like his mismanagement of money, like really, I mean, you could say that. Look at today. Again, this is why I compared it to what Doge is coming up with today.
Yes. Yep.
It's just that from back then all the way to now, everybody mismanaged money. But the question is, did they intentionally mismanage money or did they unintentionally mismanage money? That's the difference.
Yeah, and also it's kind of funny. It's like the pot calling the kettle black. It's like now that we know everything that's been going on with secret fundings and corruptions behind the scenes. I was kind of like looking it up earlier just to see if there was anything. And I was wondering if Doge uncovered any mismanagement back in the 1960s. What does it say? Wait, hold that thought. The military industrial
intelligence NGO complex. Oh my goodness. That is awesome. That is awesome. That is, oh man.
Brian's being the mad chatter today.
Yeah. I'm gonna have black suits coming to my house tonight. Open up.
Yep. No, but so there was a post here. There was a clip from 1975 church committee hearings, and some kind of exposing by Doge regarding USAID and the takeover of some media. So that's a long time ago. So I wonder if any of that was going on even during this time when they're accusing the same people that would have been in cahoots with this kind of corruption that are, in cahoots now. And, so it's just very interesting that, maybe they knew because they were doing it and they had it on the brain. They were like, oh, that stuff that we're doing, why don't we accuse him of that? That's good. Okay, let's write that down.
No, and then you got to think about what are the potential reasons, right? Government opposition, economic justice for advocacy, racial tensions. He was under FBI surveillance with J. Edgar Hoover, viewing him as a threat. J. Edgar Hoover was the head of the FBI during JFK as well. There's a reason.
Oh, I think you broke your computer. You froze a little bit, but
I'm about to break my computer. I'm about to break America.
Your computer got scared.
You got that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the time of his death, he shifted focus to economic justice and anti-war activism, which angered a lot of powerful interests, again, like JFK. Racial tensions believed that, there were supremacist and far-right groups that orchestrated his killing, even though, I'm not real. Maybe if it was a last gasp of air of that particular group of people, which ended up being very, very small, but if you really think about today, in the Marxist group, which rose to prominence at that time, is now kind of being shrunk back down in its own right.
Right.
And especially nowadays, and especially in the last 2 years. And they shrunk really fast.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, and then when you think about what Tucker Carlson said, I don't know, those the KKK and those kind of groups, what kind of funding they had, because when he talks about the killer going, traveling to Canada and traveling overseas and this, that, and the other thing, and a person who had no money, he would obviously have to have been funded by somebody. I don't know. Did they have that kind of money to do that? Maybe.
Hmm.
Do they have a motive? Yes, because they hated black people. So they will, of course, they'd have that motive inside to want to do something so heinous. For somebody that wants to unify black and white people, they would hate that. So it's a very easy thing to say. Like, it's like, okay, you have this one lone gunner. Okay, well, if the people agree that it wasn't one lone person, then at least they will just move right on to these white nationalist group, like, like the KKK people. And then we'll still be in the clear. Again, this is all alleged. Like, this is in that kind of realm of like maybe possibly what actually happened to him if it was orchestrated by powerful people in government.
Absolutely. So obviously there was a commission in 1978, the HSCA. And they concluded that MLK's assassination was likely a result of a conspiracy. And this is actually from their commission. This is a review of the FBI files of the Minutemen revealed a possible plot against Dr. King's life that received some attention by law enforcement officials shortly before Dr. King's death. On January 15, 1968, Vincent De Palma, a close associate of Robert Depew, the founder of the Minutemen, and told a Denver agent of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or known as the ATF, which is going to disappear soon, that he had defected from the Minutemen and wished to supply information. Number one, De Palma had revealed that there were 19 Minutemen strike teams across the United States assigned to assassinate several prominent persons, including Dr. King, in the event that Depew was ever imprisoned. And number two, according to De Palma, the Minutemen were also planned to incite race riots in the summer of 1968. It happened in New York, happened in New Jersey. I can see where all of that kind of, reared its ugly head, but they needed a catalyst, they needed a spark.
Yeah, of course.
And that was the spark.
Right.
So, I mean, when I talked about JFK last week, I was like, there's no way that you can connect Dallas with New Orleans, with Chicago back then without having some kind of help. Right. So when you look at the bars that they hung out with in Chicago and then heading down to Dallas and all that, all this conspiracy stuff, if that were the case and all these names are tied together, how in the world did they all communicate with each other? It's not like you had a phone book of America that you can start calling people like, hey,
right.
you feel like assassinating someone today?
Yeah,
like,
you get the yellow pages, but that was that was local stuff. Yeah.
This is called the red pages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would have to like meet up at a place. You can't go on like Discord or social media and like have conversations. You had to actually all meet up in a spot. If you live that far away, you'd have to fly there or drive there or whatever, which takes time and it takes money.
Yeah. And again, they talked about how Ray did not act alone and that other individuals were involved, but the government didn't pursue further investigation. So this is on page 376. Oregon, number 4. As Depew, he disappeared in February 1968 following his indictment in a federal grand jury in Seattle, Washington, for conspiracy to commit bank robbery. The FBI made no further attempts to investigate the threat until shortly after Dr. King's assassination, one of which De Palma's Minutemen associates, Edward Baumgardner, geez, these names are fucking way out there, told a reporter that the artist's drawing of the suspected assassin resembled De Palma. Number 5. Baumgardner was interviewed several times by the FBI. He said that he and De Palma were members of Minutemen strike team that had been formed at a training camp in Colorado during the summer of 1967. Baumgardner repeated the information that De Palma had provided the ATF and said that De Palma had been assigned the code name Willard. James Earl Ray used an alias John Willard when renting a room in rooming house in Memphis on April 4th, 1968, which is true. So that's your connection piece, ladies and gentlemen.
Case closed.
Case closed. Maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
We still don't know all the other co-conspirators.
Yeah. But it's funny how the slander stuff comes out first.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me really curious about the rest of it.
Oh, of course. Of course, because they have to plant the seed. I mean, what happened with Trump? First they blamed him for something he didn't do. Then they indicted him. That didn't work.
Continued the demonizing all underscoring throughout this. Yeah.
Right. Then they said he was selling national secrets. Then they said he was doing all this other stuff. And when all of that didn't work, Tucker Carlson, he even called it. He's like, we're fast forwarding to assassination. And what happened on July 13th of 2024?
It's crazy that
it's just the playbook is out there, ladies and gentlemen. It's out there. It's just that people don't pay attention to certain details.
Yeah. Yeah, and not everybody's like that meme with that guy. What is it from Dexter, where he's like got all the strings on the board and stuff like that, and he looks like he hasn't slept in weeks. Yeah, not everybody's doing that. Kind of we have jobs and home and family and things like that that get in the way of going down these rabbit holes. And because you really do, you have to sit there and you go down like you see something and then you have to have like 7 or 8 different tabs up just to kind of piece that one thing to the next thing. So it takes a while, and anything that's done behind the scenes will eventually come to light. But the people that are trying to hide it, if there are people trying to hide it, they are really good at it. They know how things are going to happen. Unfortunately, stuff that's happened 60 years ago, they probably didn't foresee all the access we have now. Imagine people back then trying to do what we do now with computers and AI and all this other kind of stuff to figure things out.
Absolutely. What do we got here? All that proves that King was a deep state asset all along. J. Edgar Hoover could have had him in federal prison anytime he wanted to in multiple felonies. I mean, well, multiple felonies. Like, they could have just created them back then. It's much harder to do that now, with technology and AI and cameras. And, I mean, I can basically take my phone and go click.
Yeah.
And see anything I want. But, yeah, he could have. And put him through fear. And I'm guessing, he decided he was going to go against the narrative. And you know what happens when you go against the narrative?
Yeah.
You got here, 1983, there's computer software that the world just rabbit hole don't work anymore. Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, to end this out, I mean, I gave all the information that I could give.
I'm just sitting here like stewing in it. Like, I'm just like, whoa. That's what I usually do when I come on these shows with you. I mean, like, I think about it. Like, I know like the different points that you're going to hit, but I'm just like, I can't wait for the show so that way I can kind of be with the audience, like hearing a lot of this stuff for the first time, because it's insane. I mean, those document things, the slander stuff and possible allegations, I saw those. That's everywhere. But
yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the stuff about when he was born and grew up and him being a prodigy and starting all these with the church and all these movements at 24 and going into college at 15. I mean, that kind of stuff is really, really cool. He was the one. And like I said earlier, I mean, whether or not, because a lot of these things could be true. He could have been working for the FBI but then it's kind of like, what was his goal? Like, what was the goal that they were giving him to push these movements? Why? Like, what would be the motive of the government? How would they benefit off of what he was saying out there? Or is it what he was saying out there, what he said in front of the Lincoln Memorial in his I Had a Dream speech? was that the pinnacle, the point when he started going against the narrative? Was that it? You know, like it's just this. It's so complex. There's just so much, and we're all
Or
just
did
trying to figure. Yeah, like I don't.
or did he know that his time was coming and he was a sleeper cell? No, kind of like
Yeah.
Thomas Matthew Crooks,
Yeah, yeah.
where there's no digital fingerprint of him whatsoever. Which I'm sorry, as a 20-year-old, that's impossible.
Yeah, so okay, so this whole movement, all the things that he did, all of this time was to be this beloved character from everybody. Everybody trusted him, everybody looked up to him, he inspired people to do things, and then like also having that assassination coming down the pipe to do what Bobby Kennedy pleaded with the crowd and the black and white community not to do, to take this and use it as a division.
Mhm.
Like that is like a massive, you know, a massive put together. Like, okay, we're gonna grab you. You're gonna the next like couple of decades, you're gonna become this amazing leader for the civil rights movement, and then you're gonna be taken out, kind of
Right.
thing. To like, to
Mhm.
really, really piss everybody off, and then it's gonna be something that sticks with everybody for decades later after.
Exactly,
That's insane.
because you can talk about conspiracies. You got the FBI involvement, you've got the government and the mafia connections. You got James Earl Ray as a pasty. You got CIA or military involvement.
Patsy.
You've got
You
yeah,
said
I
pasty.
did.
Well, he was
I
too.
call them pasties. That's my new word. I know it's Patsy, but I call them pasties.
Well, he
Pasty,
was.
straight pasty. No.
Yeah.
And you got the Memphis police that could be complicit, as well as reports suggest that the police removed MLK's usual security detail on the night of his assassination, raising suspicion.
Right.
But that could have come from multiple locations
Right.
at the time. The same way that they removed JFK's security detail right before his assassination, the same way
Epstein's
that they tried.
cameras went off.
Epstein's cameras went off.
Yeah.
Trump's detail when they didn't cover that one area. Like, come on.
They had
Like,
the cast of the heat protecting him.
That's not just one agency going whoops
Yeah.
every time. That's multiple things going wrong at multiple times. But anyways, to close us out, Biddy,
Yes.
what do you got?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think I said most of it earlier. I just think God. I mean, I know this is. I mean, for all of you that don't believe in God, you can probably mute me for now. But no, I just feel like there is a higher power. No matter what goes on, no matter how much control we have, the people that are really in control think that they have. God is always in control, and He uses us for specific times in this life. And this is exactly what I said earlier. Whether or not MLK was a criminal behind the scenes doing, or like what constitutes as crimes, especially back then, or did actual criminal things with mismanagement of funds and all this other kind of stuff, or if he actually was working for the feds and orchestrating this huge decades long thing to make sure that the divide between black and white people goes on for decades going forward. He's still being used by a higher power to say to the people that this is wrong, that all these truths are self-evident, that God created men and women are equal, and it's not by the color of their skin, by the content of their character. All of these things are real, and all of these things are true. And no matter what you think about the man behind the scenes, that doesn't change the value of what he said and what he was saying to everybody and what he inspired people to do. I mean, these are living, breathing people that live alongside us. He was absolutely right in what he said. So that's my take.
Exactly. Look at Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
In the situation he's going through in his life, does that make him any less of a character?
Qualified or valuable.
Qualified, exactly. You know, and sometimes you need the crazy person to be in charge.
Sometimes you have to be crazy to be in charge.
Yeah, sometimes exactly.
Like
Yeah.
to deal with everything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be crazy enough to want to have to deal with the other crazies. It's
Right.
like, because honestly, in my mind, I'd rather have the crazy person as president than the soft person being talking down to by the other crazy president. Like
Right.
you kind of have to. Sometimes you have
I'm
to
very
pick and choose your
skeptical.
battles.
Right. I'm very skeptical of people who claim to be like normal and you know that they don't do anything. It's like, okay, now I really want to know what you be doing. Like, because nobody's all the way normal. Everybody's got their little quips. Everybody's got their little things. Everybody's got stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that was MLK Uncensored. My goodness. That was a fun episode.
Yeah.
That was
it
a
really
lot of
was.
fun.
It was good.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
Thank you for coming in at like the 2-minute warning.
Oh, no problem. I was beating my face to death trying to look good for you guys.
People like
Yeah. I got the big
Already.
brush, like the painting one for the wall. I was just like, you know what? I'm going heavy today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Please, we're going to be on the Discord here for a couple of hours. So if you guys don't know, please visit my website, riseofmiddleamerica.com. This is where we get our rants, news, and deep dives throughout the day, not just for ROMA Nation, but also for Sunset Rants, for Sunset Rants FAFO Friday, for Rise with Middle America. We've got 2 more shows coming this month that's going to be joining here on our network. We're going to be the fastest growing podcast network on X, on Rumble. I'm telling you guys, please join us. All right. If you go into the site right up at the top, you'll be able to join us, and on Discord, you will also be able to see our merchandise link as well. We've got plenty of shirts, plenty of everything. And the thing is that on Sunset Rants, we have a game called Caption This, where we create an AI generated image. And it's up to you and the audience to tell us what is the best caption for that image. Now, we got a championship coming up. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be soon, Biddy. I promise.
Yeah. No problem. No, we just there was 39 episodes of Caption This so far. Yeah.
Yep. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our top 5 captions, and whoever wins, number 1, you're going to get that caption and that photo on a shirt sent to you, along with a ROMA Nation hat with Sunset Rants on the side, signed by Phil Labonte right on the bill.
Yeah,
Phil
that's
Labonte
awesome.
of All That Remains. All right.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the idea of the shirt with the caption. I think that's that's
Absolutely.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join us in the Discord. Join us on Rumble. Follow us there. Subscribe on Rumble. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on X at @therealRoma_AK. We've got Elizabeth213A over there. You also do a lot of music reaction videos.
Yeah, Elizabeth213 on YouTube. I actually have to get back to it because I've been really busy, but yeah, I do all different genres. So if you're here listening and you wanna message me and ask me to react to something that's your favorite song, I'm with it. Let me know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining us again tonight, and we will see you next week for RFK Uncensored. And I'm going to tell you what, it's probably not as exciting as this week, but there's a lot of weird conspiracies on that one. So I hope you guys are ready for that. And thank you very much. And we will see you next week. Like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.
Hustle in my veins, no rest, no dream, trying to make a way. Whole team gotta eat. No sleep, gotta keep going. No sleep, till the world know it. No sleep, till the world know it. No sleep, till the world know it. I've been moving like a clock, don't stop, no breaks, no rest, no time to flop. Gotta get it while I'm breathing, never taking a loss. See the pain in my eyes, but the vision stay locked. Ain't nobody finna hand me a thing. Came from the bottom, I rose through the rain. Hustle like I never had a meal on my plate. Now we eating so good that the hunger remains. Fast lane, never slowing my pace. Tell them I was built for the chase. Every night trying to double my worth. Put my name in the sky, make it shake up the earth. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Late nights turn to early moans. Put the work in till the break of dawn. They was sleeping on the kid, now they call my phone. Now the city know my name, I've been putting them on. Ayy, tunnel vision when I step on the field. Gotta keep it real, never sign no deal. Independent, gotta get it, never needed a cosign. When the world told me wait, I was like, no time. I ain't getting no sleep till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ayy, tell them I was built for this. Every verse that I spit got a hit or a risk. Never fold, never quit, let them know I exist. Till they call my name and go, let it shine like this. One shot, one chance, I ain't wasting a second. I've been working through the storms, now the sun stay blessing. Ain't no sleep when you live in a dream. Gotta grind every day for the life unseen. No sleep till the job get done. No sleep, we ain't folding, nah. No sleep, gotta hustle on. No sleep till we number one. Touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me.